It's 3 a.m. The trucks arrive, up to 500 a night, bringing in fresh produce from all around Australia. The market businesses begin setting up their stalls as they have every weekday since 1975. Each day, Monday to Friday, the markets open and bargaining begins as around 6,000 customers enter the market to trade in Australia's most diverse range of quality fresh fruit, vegetables and flowers. This is Sydney Markets, the home of fresh food, flowers and paddies. The fresh produce sold through Sydney Markets is consumed by almost 1/3 of Australia's population. Sydney Markets is an institution, one of the largest privately owned markets in the world. So large, it has its own postcode. As the premier fresh produce and flower market of Australia, Sydney Markets is famous for being as big, brassy and cosmopolitan as the city it serves. This is the story of Sydney Markets, the marketplace in the heart of Sydney that Sydney has taken to its heart. To appreciate the significance of Sydney Markets, you need to know the origins of Sydney itself, as the markets can be seen as a chronicle of the times that began in 1788. The government, convict and settler farmers brought with them the livestock, produce and the building blocks to what would become Australia's first agricultural industry, and had to produce fruit and vegetables to sustain the colony. This gave birth to a makeshift produce market that in the 1800s moved to the streets of Sydney and officially launched as the Sydney Markets. Over the next 200 years, Sydney Markets grew in size and influence and relocated to larger premises throughout Sydney a number of times, and then divided its produce categories that traded at different times of the week. And Sydney Markets continues this today. Here is Sydney Markets, 43 hectares of one of the most operationally efficient and well-constructed markets in the world. Sydney Markets Limited is an unlisted public company owned by approximately 2,000 shareholders, all of whom have trading space in the market. A management team and support staff of 75 run the daily market operations. The company's board of directors consists of 9 members, with 5 representing the different market categories and 2 expertise and 2 independent directors. Sydney Markets comprises of 5 distinct market brands. The Sydney Produce Market caters mainly to professional buyers from supermarkets, restaurants, independent greengrocers, the hospitality and catering trade, and is home to around 120 fresh produce wholesalers. The Sydney Growers Market is Australia's largest growers market, with around 400 stands selling a vast array of fresh produce. The Sydney Flower Market trades 6 days a week from 5 a.m. and is home to over 200 flower growers and wholesalers and accounts for around 75% of the wholesale cut flower trade in New South Wales. This represents more than 50% of the total cut flower trade for the whole of Australia. The Sydney Markets Plaza is a multi-storey building consisting of ground floor retail premises and 2 levels of commercial offices. As business comes to a close on Friday morning, Sydney Markets loosen up for the weekend and transform to become Sydney's Paddy's Markets, our most recognised brand and the most successful retail markets in Australia. Sydney's Paddy's Markets is a community celebration of bargain shopping. Every week, 250,000 people flock to Paddy's Markets at Flemington and to our city location at Haymarket. Paddy's Markets at Haymarket is in close proximity to Sydney's Showcase, the most beautiful harbour in the world, and is an iconic tourist shopping destination. Sydney is a vibrant cosmopolitan capital that regularly ranks among the world's most livable cities. With a population just over 4.8 million, Sydney has one of the lowest city population densities and highest standards of living in the world. This high standard is directly related to the quality, diversity and freshness of our produce, which leads us back to Sydney Markets, the largest produce markets in the Southern Hemisphere. It's worth looking at other factors of our location to understand further why Sydney Markets draws customers not just from Sydney, but from all over Australia. Sydney Markets is located halfway between Sydney CBD and Parramatta, New South Wales' next largest city, on a major highway that links the two. This places us in the epicentre of millions of business and commuter movements daily, and all of Sydney's motorways and major highways can lead you to the markets. This extensive road access is necessary as the markets field over 70,000 vehicle movements per week. And on any given weeknight, up to 500 trucks can be unloading. We also have a railway station next door that brings people in their thousands to the markets. Let's go behind the scenes to get a sense of the logistics and sheer dimension of the operation. The everyday working statistics of Sydney markets can be overwhelming when you first hear them. We operate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, with over 5,000 people employed on site. 2.5 million tonnes of fresh produce is traded annually, which equates to around a $3 billion turnover. Over 20,000 growers throughout Australia contribute to the markets, and there are 2,000 regular traders operating on site. The site caters for over 250,000 cubic metres of cool rooms and 850 forklifts. Turning to the layout of the markets, buildings A, B, C and E are the Sydney produce markets. Building E is unique in that it exclusively sells only wholesale bananas. It can handle in excess of 160,000 boxes every day. Building D houses the Sydney Growers Market in an area equivalent to 3 football fields under cover. Building D is also the home of Sydney's Paddy's Markets from Friday to Sunday. Building F is home to our very successful Sydney Flower Market. In fresh cut flowers alone, the annual turnover is well in excess of $170 million. In addition to this, the site provides over 65,000 square metres of on-site warehouse space and 2 multi-storey car parks. Over 150 supporting businesses are also on site, including banks, a post office, cafes, a chemist, and a general goods store, providing essential services to the Sydney markets community. This support extends to the market having its own credit cooperative. The traders traditionally traded in cash, but needed a more secure system. Established in 1991, the credit co-op allows buyers and wholesalers to settle their accounts on site. A progressive idea and a convenient, safer system for all. Sydney Markets is committed to its environmental sustainability program and has set stringent environmental targets. Greenpoint is the market's purpose-built waste management facility for sorting, separating and managing waste. Over the past 3 years, it has sent in excess of 30,000 tonnes of organic waste to an anaerobic digestion facility and a bioreactor to be converted into energy, which is then sold to an electricity provider. As well as recycling over 3,500 tonnes of cardboard, it has recycled over 300,000 timber pallets into wood chip for landscaping and collected and recycled over 60 tonnes of steel. 170 tonnes of plastics and polystyrene products have also been recycled into building products and other items. In all, over 65% of the total waste is now recycled each year. Sydney Markets is also leading the way in renewable resources, adding a 167 kilowatt solar panel carport at the Flower Market, which reduces its carbon footprint by up to 240 tonnes per year. The maintenance of a rainwater collection facility also allows the sustainable cleaning of the markets and reduces the impact of fresh water supplies. Marketing plays an important role in keeping the Sydney Markets brand active. As well as successful marketing initiatives undertaken by Sydney's Paddy's Markets, Sydney Markets also conducts 3 other major marketing programs: Fresh for Kids, Greengrocer and Florist of the Year. The Fresh for Kids program is aimed at combating the rising levels of obesity in primary age school children by encouraging them to eat plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables and do more exercise. The Greengrocer and Florist of the Year programs rewards excellence in fresh produce and flower retailing. These long-running programs are popular in the industry as they promote and acknowledge best practice, and they play an important role in increasing the standards of retail operations. Sydney Markets. The name is synonymous with quality fresh produce, beautiful flowers and community market bargains. We're proud of the excellent quality of our fresh produce, and we aim to continually improve the service and facilities that we provide for our stakeholders and customers. We believe Sydney Markets is the most effective privately operated market in the world, and we've had over 200 years to get it just right. Sydney Markets, the home of fresh food, flowers and paddies.